One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free, then let me be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul, with a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne, amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar. Insanewheels rise as a force to be reckoned with, fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insanewheels hear his battle cry, a metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way, a legend in the making, day by day.
Selves and having a beautiful, beautiful topless Taco Tuesday. Great to see everyone in the chat. Let's get it, man. And on my side, I'm lagging like a motherfucker, but that's all right. It won't show up on the playback later. There we go. All right. So anyways, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we got Supreme Court backs Trump, and we're going to be getting into further details on all of these things. Canada trade war escalates, and E. coli outbreak spreads. So that's what we're looking at this morning, but we actually have more than that, than just the title. I can't fit everything into the title. That's why we do that. Anyways, quickly, let's go ahead and give you guys the chronological timeline of what we're going to be discussing this morning. First, obviously, as you guys know, we've been talking about heavily in the regards to Canada and the tariff situation, the trade wars, essentially. So we have Carney coming out yesterday, and he gave his well, actually, it was Bessent. I'm sorry, not Carney. Carney did come out yesterday and do his reply on a whole bunch of shit. But then Bessent comes back and again and says, this is what it's going to be right here. So, of course, we're going to be waiting for any and all Canadian responses on this. We have Karen Solomon, sought in husband's death, reportedly found dead in Massachusetts. It says, we are now learning this Monday that the body of a woman believed to be Karen Solomon was found by police in Massachusetts. This comes as officials searched for Solomon, who was the wife of a veteran, Worcester. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Massachusetts. Sorry, guys. Police officer was found dead last week. Upon further examination, they say, we believe this person to be Karen Solomon. Worcester Police Chief Paul Saucer said at a news conference, stressing that the identification is preliminary and still must be confirmed by the medical examiner. Interesting developments coming out of that situation, though. Then we have Hawk Fire in Reno. Now is 27% contained after burning more than 15,000 acres. Now, this situation, I believe this is the exact one that was, man started. Like they started this, some man, whether he an arsonist that went and lit up something or threw a cigarette, I don't know, but it was intentionally, I guess, a human that did that one. And it has, there's a lot of, it says 27% containment as firefighters successfully halt its southern advance. The blaze so far has destroyed 32 homes, damaged 6 others, and caused at least 7 injuries, including 3 first responders. Damn. And of course, they have a state of emergency for Washoe, I think that's how you say it, county, where roughly 23,000 residents remain under mandatory evacuation orders, and another 40,000 are under evacuation warnings. Damn. And the West Coast is getting smoked. I know Reno is not necessarily the West Coast, but, we got not only Nevada that's up in flames, but Oregon's the number 1 right now. Washington as well. California. It's just nonsense right now. Like hundreds of fires. And then we have Supreme Court backs Trump's order to curb mail-in ballots. Now, the thing to know about this whole situation is, well, let me just read here. It says, we are learning more this Monday that the Supreme Court granted President Donald Trump's executive order to restrict mail-in voting ahead of midterm elections. The U.S. Postal Service laid out how it would implement the order last week, but time is running short to impose major changes, with some states beginning to send mail ballots to voters in just a few weeks. So of course, this is not something that is like ingrained, like this is how it's going to be this is like a decision that's going to be pretty much just made temporarily, just going to be honest about it. Then we have officer shot at Sam's Club in Texas after a vehicle pursuit. Says police in Burleson, Texas are assisting an outside agency that was involved in a shooting near a Sam's Club after a vehicle pursuit on Monday. An officer was shot by a suspect during the incident, and their condition is currently unknown. Witnesses say the police officer was shot in the leg, and they heard multiple shots fired. Damn. Then we have some Pentagon news. We've got Pentagon fires top Stars and Stripes staff after censorship comments. What is that about? Censorship comments. Now, I don't think anybody likes no censorship comments. But it really doesn't give us a lot of details. The firings follow a media interview with CBS defending the publication's editorial independence against the Department of Defense's ongoing pressure to restrict content. USA Today reporter, blah, blah, blah. I guess they're going to be joining on live now. Then we have, obviously, back to the trade war. Canada fires back as Trump threatens new U.S. tariff. Now, let me go ahead and quickly read this part right here. The trade war between the United States and Canada became a war of words on Monday, which was obviously yesterday. Prime Minister Mark Carney accused Washington of trying to subordinate his nation. While President Donald Trump threatens worse consequences if Canada does not, quote, fall in line. Carney signaled his nation was ready to find a solution to the dueling tariffs, but only if the U.S. approached the talks as happening between two sovereign nations, saying, quote, an attitude at the negotiation table that Canada is a subsidiary of the United States is not something we are going to accept. Quote, without the United States, Canada couldn't survive. It's where they get all their money, and because of their current bad leadership, primarily Governor Carney and his flunky Ford, they will not be allowed to keep taking advantage of the United States, end quote, by Trump. Trump wrote this in a post and also referred Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who had talked about the tariffs during a Monday afternoon news conference. Trump warned that the U.S. could implement 50% tariffs on Canadian vehicles, auto parts, and steel, which led Carney to accuse Washington of trying to dismantle its automobile industry. The president went on to blast Canada's ridiculously high tariffs on American farmers. Damn. We got a lot of things coming out regarding this whole trade wars thing. But first, we also have something a little interesting that we are following is the Tupac murder trial. It says new details on Keith D, Diddy and Suge Knight relationship, I guess. So I don't know how important that really is, but I'm sure it is. Whatever. Then we have the CDC coming out. E. coli, Salmonella outbreak linked to alfalfa sprouts. What? What is going on with all these? Like, we got lettuce fuck ups, we got jalapeno fuck ups, now alfalfa sprouts. Come on, bro.
Oh shit!
Anyways, that's going on just 2 hours ago. And then we have Iran issues bounty for Trump's son Barron as war enters 6 months. And yes, that did happen yesterday. And I think they gave a $10 million bounty. Let's go ahead and read this. It says, Iranian state media is claiming there is a $10 million bounty on Barron Trump, President Donald Trump's 20-year-old son, according to a new report as the U.S. War with Iran enters its 6th month. All right, let's see. And then there is one more thing here. This is a very interesting thing about Lake of Ontario, right? Or Lake Ontario. Trump threatens to rename Lake Ontario to Lake America as tariff war continues. Oh, shit. I actually put in a on the Discord, I put on the breaking news thing where I saw, I think Fox posted it originally, and I posted it this morning. Let me see if I can find it. Trump tweeted, he said, the United States is giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, and what we don't expect to do, doing much business with Ontario any longer. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What, dude?
Oh shit! Oh shit!
All right. I'm sure we got plenty of Canadians pissed off this morning. So listen, let's go and do our call to actions before we get into the madness. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side, and hit that subscribe button. This is what we do Monday through Friday. And of course, we have members only on Saturday morning, man. So it's a good time, and we don't even talk about any of this shit. Now, speaking of members, please consider becoming a member starting only at $4.99 a month, making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, as well as politics, all that great shit. And it's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. And then, of course, we have the Discord server for all of the legends in here. Make sure you guys join up on that if you haven't already, where not only all of us hang out as a community, but of course we have breaking news segments in there, so you guys can get minute-by-minute plays of what we're actually discussing and talking about. And listen, last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen. At any time, you can donate to those. And of course, where I get to keep 100% of the proceeds. And we will be shouting out anything that comes our way, just like a normal super chat. So we've got our email up. Always be watching, right? Always be scanning. And as you guys know, of course, we are raising funds, as you guys can see, for the last week, trying to raise enough funds to be able to buy ourselves a new camera here. And yes, it's going to be very expensive. So if you guys happen to have a little extra cash, it'd be nice for you guys to send it in. Appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and see who's in the chat, man. Good morning to all you legends, man. Always appreciate it. Let's see. We got Motobomb coming in this morning first, and also sent us a raid this morning. Thank you very much, kind sir, from you and the coffee crew. We got Vanguard Critters as well. Good morning to you. Let's see. We got Naomi and Steve Posey. Good morning to you guys as well. We got Mountain Woman chilling like a villain. Let's see. We got AU as well chilling. And when he said this originally, when I was just starting the show, he said, listening while walking whiskey. So probably won't see the chat. I thought he said, listening while I drink whiskey. And I'm like, oh, dude, fuck, that's awesome. Doesn't matter. It's in the morning. It doesn't matter. We got Easy Frank in here, as well as chatting with Stacks, Rabbit of Chaos, and KP. Appreciate you guys. We got Jamie Lindsay as well. Let's see. We got Mr. Jack Telcott. And I hope I said Rabbit of Chaos. Good morning to you guys. Jamie Lindsay, chilling. We got Big Dan. Good morning to you. We got Tootie Bug as well, and OG Steve Easy. Shout out to you guys. We got Sick Bastard saying word. Shout out to you. Scrolling down, we got David. Good morning to you, as well as Brother Beezer. Shout out to you guys. What's up, lovely? Thank you for being here. Always appreciate it. Let's see. We're scrolling down. I promise you, I'm trying to keep up. We got Beezer coming in with the gifted membership, by the way. Not only helping me, but helping someone else in the IWF. I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'm not sure why. I think it's because we got the amount of tabs open right now that, unfortunately, holy shit, my camera just can't keep up right now. We got Charlie Rose. It's not only my camera, by the way. I'm sure it has to do with the entire system. But I'll try to figure it out here in a minute. Let's see. OG Steve Easy chilling. We got Two Stroke. Shout out to you guys. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. First, we're going to talk about Iran sanctions. Besant announces Operation Economic Outcast is what they're naming it. So let's go ahead and figure it out. And I'm going to try to figure out what I can do to stop the lag on my side.
Today, at President Trump's direction, the United States Treasury has begun Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran and its enablers. In the Second World War, D-Day marked the historic beginning of a campaign with our allies to target and drive the enemy from its positions, including those in third countries. Today, in that same spirit, we are launching an economic onslaught against Iran's financial connections around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until
What's up, lady? We got Lady S in the building. Good morning.
Iran stands alone. Iran's fanatics devote themselves to death to America and seek nuclear weapons to do just that. They have murdered and maimed more of our citizens and service members than any other terrorist regime on earth. And they have been at war against America, their neighbors in the Gulf, and much of the world for 47 years. President Trump has taken action that his predecessors have long deferred. And under his leadership, America is no longer managing the Iranian threat. We are ending it. Our great armed forces have laid the groundwork for achieving the president's objective of preventing Iran from ever obtaining nuclear weapons. They have shown America's resolve to finally end this threat. And the strength of America's economy under President Trump allows us to wage this sustained financial operation alongside the might of our military. Iran now faces a very clear choice.
It's not just Iran, though. Iran has the choice to make the difference here, but a lot of countries are in the crosshair because of Iran's decision. Essentially, that's what they're trying to make it out to be. But it's I don't know. I'm just watching to see how this is going to affect China. Again, this is the biggest thing that I'm watching for, is making sure how it's going to affect China. China buys 80% of Iran's oil, so all Iranian exports of oil, 80% of it goes to China. Okay. So if we basically do these secondary sanctions and all this shit, and now we're going after the trade partners that are still continuing to trade with Iran, which would be China, how is China going to go ahead and respond to that? Even China, Reuters put out a thing yesterday that we reported on and says, we are absolutely going to be watching this, and we will adjust accordingly, right?
Only two paths before them: complete global isolation and a subsistence economy, or a path back to normalcy with an opportunity to rejoin the global economy. Today, we are launching Operation Economic Outcast to foreclose every other option available to the Iranian regime.
What's up, Provoke? By the way, good morning to you.
Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime. We are enforcing a zero leakage approach. There will be no minimal breathing space for the regime to rebuild its capacity to inflict terror against America and the world.
Hey, Kraken, I got a soundbite for you.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
There we go. Perfect.
The final refuge of this regime is a mistaken conclusion of nations that still finance the Iranian threat in the hopes of evading it. It is no longer acceptable to operate in the gray spaces of this conflict. Countries cannot claim they are blind to enabling this activity. Iran's enablers purchase, transport its petroleum. They facilitate the flow of its finances through exchange houses and free trade zones. They welcome Iran's flights and maintain registries on its behalf. They turn a blind eye to seaborne fuel transfers and overland transits. They condone illicit use of their banks, all the while concealing the extent of their complicity. The president is making phone calls to world leaders with specific requests to cease.
No, you don't understand. That went for both of you guys.
Their interactions with the regime. We are already seeing results. Over the weekend, comments from Iranian leadership clearly acknowledged the effect of this campaign. And nations that facilitate any interactions with the regime should quickly heed our message. Those who stand with the United States will reap the rewards of our partnership. Those who tether themselves to the Iranian regime should expect to share in the isolation of a withering regime. Teams from Treasury.
We got Fidel in the building, by the way. Shout out to my man. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat.
And the U.S. military are now meeting with their global counterparts to tell them that the United States expects action. Every country has a defined timeline to shut down activities we have identified. If they do not take action, we will do so unilaterally through Treasury authorities.
No doubt, Rick Young. That's what I've been paying attention to as well, and how China is going to respond, and then how we going to deal with that once that response happens. But we're still waiting on the essentially the extreme details of this. This is him, Scott Bessent, talking about, like, basically, you guys have one last chance and this is what we're going to do, kind of thing. Well, none of this has actually been implemented yet.
For example, every branch of Bank Melee must be shuttered and dark. And let me be clear, any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the US dollar system. The clock just started ticking. The new sectoral sanctions
What's up, Tiffany, by the way? Good morning.
determinations issued today target 5 of Iran's most vital lifelines that it exploits in other countries.
Okay, I think it was issued and then it is implemented like January or some. I don't even remember what day. I'm sure that he'll say it. If not, we'll look it up.
Digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. These measures broaden secondary sanctions risk for anyone foolish enough to continue conducting business with this regime and will accelerate the speed with which we pursue them. As I speak, Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control is also sanctioning over 60 entities, individuals, and vessels around the world that enable the Iranian regime to procure illicit nuclear and missile technology, conduct cyber operations, and generate oil revenue. This is a sustained campaign to collapse every last option for Iran. Let there be no ambiguity as to the position of the United States. An economic engagement of any kind with this murderous regime will expose those responsible to the full reach of American power. For decades, this regime has drawn strength from a calculus that regards Iranian retaliation as certain and American enforcement as negotiable. Under President Trump, that era is over. To the ordinary soldiers supporting this regime, as more and more of your paychecks stop or are supposedly just delayed, ask whether your commanders are leading your country to triumph or to ruin. And recall that the Berlin Wall fell when ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at their own people. And to those who enable Tehran, do not discount the cost of testing Washington's resolve. No nation should expect to enjoy the rewards of our system while helping those who seek to destroy it. It is now a time for world leaders to make a decision between prosperity and isolation, peace and terror, America and Iran. The campaign we begin today will gather force with every day that follows, and it will not end until this regime stands alone. With that, I welcome your questions.
And we'll take a handful of questions. We're not going to stick on this too much because we do, as you guys heard, if you guys were here in the very beginning, the top monologue of all these different stories that we're going to be covering this morning. We don't have time to sit here and listen to 30 minutes of questions, but we will get a few of them.
David from Reuters.
Called out a
Thanks,
person?
Secretary. One of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal is the ability to impose.
Real quick, before he asks the question, I'll even back it up a little bit. But we got Money Talks. Money is on the table. Appreciate that. Jamie Lindsay coming in with the 20 spot saying camera money. Let's fucking appreciate that. Jamie, that goes a long way. I'm going to add that. And always remember, guys, and by the way, we need the super chats and all of that stuff, but remember that 30% gets taken away from YouTube. And I'm not telling you guys not to donate to YouTube because we need the super chats. But I am going to say that when I add up, for instance, this, I'm going to take 70% of that and add it to the total. You know what I mean? Just there's transparency there. I just wanted to let you guys know because obviously they take 30% off the rip. But Jamie Lindsay, thank you very much for that. That goes a long way, bro.
Secondary sanctions on banks and financial institutions that facilitate transactions for Iran. Chinese banks have often been talked about being targeted, but we don't see any of those institutions targeted here. Is that something that is coming in this campaign, or is the very delicate trade truce with China something that could prohibit you from going that far and taking that very big step?
We want to make clear here today that no one is above the reach of U.S. sanctions. That if they facilitate transactions and are part,
which China does that. So what are we going to do? We're gonna throw China onto some crazy ass sanctions or something? I mean, that's my main worry. If there wasn't China involved, you could probably get away with a lot of the shit. But you got to remember, China and India are two of the big, buyers of anything Iran. And so you got to remember, India and China are two of our major trading partners to an extent.
of U.S. sanctions. that if they facilitate transactions and are part of the ecosystem that turns Iranian oil into money,
Which is
into
China.
repression, they will be targeted. We find that the best way to engage with countries is through quiet diplomacy, and we are level setting with every country to tell them our expectations. We know who they are, they know who they are, so when the hammer of U.S. Treasury actions falls upon them, they will have no one to blame but themselves. So, Richard from CBS.
I like how he's not even calling out the random people that are there. He's got certain people that he's calling out. That's crazy.
Thank you. You said the president
Real quick, we got my man Baker in the chat. Extra surprise. Good
is
morning.
calling world leaders with specific asks and
Prez.
and that there's a defined timeline. Who is he calling and what are the asks?
We're not going to name names, that we've already seen some results, and that I am confident the president, as you all know, is quite persuasive, and we are following his calls up with calls from visits and calls from the State Department and from the U.S. Treasury, expecting them, or telling the leaders, the countries, and the entities exactly what we expect and the timelines. And I would expect that very quickly, if they do not respond, then you will see the ramifications of their actions.
Can you say how far the timelines are?
Again, I'm not going to set timelines, but we do not have infinite patience here.
What's up, Sterling Wheel, as well, saying he's out trucking today. That's right. Good to see you, and hopefully you're enjoying your Topless Taco Tuesday. And by the way, this goes for everyone. Let's get the likes up, man. Very much appreciate it. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. You don't have to like all this craziness that's happening right now, but you guys can like it for me and what we're doing here on Insane Wheels. So thank you for that.
Jennifer?
What's Jennifer?
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. You just said moments ago that no one is above U.S. sanctions. What specific secondary sanctions or penalties is Treasury prepared to levy against Chinese banks and shipping firms if they do not comply? And then secondly, as you look to take these unprecedented sanctions, you've also said that as the Iran conflict fades and oil prices recede, that will help bring down long-term bond yields. In the meantime, you have mentioned your toolkit, and I'm curious if you are looking at reducing auction sizes for longer-term dated Treasury debt going forward, and what other actions you may consider from that toolkit.
Damn, that was a long fucking question. We got Big Bizquick in the chat, as well as Carrie from Rob's Neighbor. Good morning to you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, why don't we work backwards? We issued the quarterly refunding announcement 2.5 weeks ago. We are going to continue with our regular program of auctions, so you will be hearing from us again at the beginning of next quarter. In terms of, as I said, every country, every entity should know that they should be prepared to face U.S. sanctions. And no one is above this. We are going to hold everyone accountable, and this is economic asphyxiation of this regime. And Jennifer, as I said, no one should test our resolve. So, Josh
What's up, brother TVT? Up there in Canada, by the way. Good morning. Great to see you.
from New York Post.
We'll take one more comment. We'll take this last comment right here before we got like 12 more stories to get in through, and we're already 30 minutes in. We got Miss Lotus, by the way. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat. I can already smell overtime.
You said you weren't going to name names, but there's been some reports that the United Arab Emirates is among some of the first nations to take seriously these words from the United States to cut off all business interactions with Iran. Is UAE leading the way in this respect?
I would think that the actions that they took last week were not coincident, but likely causal. And I would expect that we would see a broad array of countries taking similar actions as we continue our engagement. The UAE have been very good partners and have taken the brunt of the Iranian attacks in the Gulf. And what have these countries gotten over the years from appeasing Iran? They were subject to violent attacks. While we were bombing Iran, they were bombing them. So it shows that with this regime, appeasement does not work. And on the other side, with this regime, trying to buy appeasement will no longer work in the eyes.
What's up, brother VC? Shout out to you. Hopefully you're enjoying your Topless Taco Tuesday. Good morning.
The United States of America. And I want to emphasize that we are spreading out across the world as we speak. that you will see a wave of sanctions when you leave this meeting today, and you should expect that cadence to continue. And I would expect that you will see a major announcement of a financial institution being sanctioned by the end of this week. So,
All right.
Samira from Sky.
Yeah, I'm done with this. All right, let's go into, we have a very quick update on this. Karen Solomon sought in husband's death, reportedly found dead in Massachusetts. This is a very quick update. It's only like a couple minutes before we get into the Hawk fire in Reno that is now 27% contained after burning more than 15,000 acres. Now, that's just one of hundreds of fires that are going on, especially on the West Coast, Oregon being the number one. Shout out to Sterling for the amount of research he did on that yesterday. And then after that, Supreme Court backs Trump's order to curb mail-in ballots, which is kind of a little bit more of a temporary judgment thing there. It's not like solidified, but then we have officer shot at Sam's Club in Texas after a vehicle pursuit. Then we got Pentagon fires top Stars and Stripes staff after censorship comments, and just keeps going on. And we got the trade wars to get into with Canada. Man, a lot to discuss. Quickly, I think everybody needs to embrace their fuck ups. Let's just do that now.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck ups when you have tomorrow's fuck ups to look forward to? You are a fuck up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
We shall always embrace the process here at Insane Wheels. Real quick, we got my man Sterling Whale coming in with the gifted membership, by the way. Thank you very much, kind sir. Not only helping me, but you're also helping someone else in the IWF, man. I very much appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up and figure out what is happening with this. It's a very quick update. It's nothing long. We'll get through it quickly.
Welcome back, everyone, here worldwide for you on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Page. Always great to be with you. We want to give you...
And as you guys know, all my videos are sped up to 1.25. So no one's doing speed.
An update to a wild story that we have been following, and now it looks like it has come to an end as law enforcement say they believe that they have found the body of a Massachusetts woman they called armed and dangerous. It was a manhunt that was going on for nearly a week after her police officer husband was discovered dead in their own home. For more on this, we want to go out to Massachusetts. That is where we find Fox News' Amy Gallo with the very latest to this wild story.
Hey, Mike, we're learning from the police department that two workers at a rehab facility found what appears to be Karen Solomon's body in the woods behind their building. That's less than a mile away from where she was last spotted on security camera footage.
Upon further examination, we believe this person to be Karen Solomon. In addition to the surrounding area, we did locate a handgun in the area of the body.
Worcester Police Chief Paul Saucier shared there were no reports of a gunshot being heard in the area, but he believes Solomon used the gun to kill herself. The gun was not a service weapon. 58-year-old Solomon was last seen on a doorbell camera walking down a street in her neighborhood, just minutes after officers responded to a call at her home. Again, she was last spotted in the Coes Pond area, which is where Worcester police were focusing their search the past week, using dive teams, sonar, and canines. Solomon was the
Must be wicked smart.
wife of veteran Worcester police officer Kurt Solomon, who served for 31 years. According to police chief Paul Saucier, died from injuries involving a sharp object, though he wouldn't say what. Karen Solomon was also well known in the law enforcement community. She was a mental health advocate who focused on suicide prevention and helped launch a nonprofit organization called First Help. The police chief said there was no evidence of domestic violence in the Solomon family. He also reiterated that their findings announced today are still pending further forensic investigation. Back to you, Mike.
Man, keep digging. That's all I can say. Keep digging. We got Hawk fire in Reno, now 27% contained after burning more than 15,000 acres. Let's quickly bring this up now and figure out what is happening with this. This is the one that was started by an arson. Somebody actually set this fire off.
Welcome back, everyone, here worldwide for you on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Page. Always great to be with you as we continue to roll on. We want to continue to get to, the updates coming out of Reno, Nevada. The massive Hawk fire continues from this weekend. I want to bring in right now on the ground from KTVU, Zach Sauce made the drive over from the Bay Area now to where this wildfire is. And Zach, if you could just explain to our viewers what the drive like was when you were coming and what you were seeing, and now what it's like on the ground there.
Well, I have to admit, we were expecting to see a lot more smoke given the massive size of this fire sitting at around 15,000 acres. That's
Now, real quick, it says 90,000 evacuations, but it's not actually 90,000, just so you guys know. What it is there's a state of emergency, of course, for Washoe. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, county, where roughly 23,000 residents remain under mandatory evacuation orders, and another 40,000 are under evacuation warnings. Just wanted to clarify that because they had down here 90,000 evacuations. They kind of make it sound a little bit more dramatic than what that is. I mean, the numbers already is brutal.
It's around 23 square miles.
No need to exaggerate anything.
I think you have to give credit to the firefighters today who've made a lot of progress. Over the weekend, this fire was sitting at around 0% containment, now at around 27% containment. So on our way out to the fire, driving across the California line into Nevada, probably about 10 miles west of Reno, really not a lot of smoke to report. As we got closer, you really could start to see that smoke. And
Shit, what's up, Mr. Steiny? Good morning.
We really got a sense of the scale of this fire. I just want to step out of the way so you can get a better look at what they're dealing with right now. That entire hillside off in the distance. This is about probably northwest of downtown Reno, a few miles northwest of downtown.
Real quick, that's interesting, Steve Posey. Very, very interesting. I'm going to have to look into
Reno.
that.
We are still in city Reno proper right now. You can see the hot spots that they are still tackling there. So a lot of work still ahead to really get this fully under control. They're hoping for certainly that the wind will cooperate. That has been one of the challenges they've been facing, as well as the really dry conditions here and the high heat overnight. It drops down to 60, so that has helped them a lot in this environment. But during the day, it goes into the 90s. So perfect weather to really continue to aggravate this fire.
Yeah, you're kind of just fueling the fire basically with that kind of heat. Real quick, we do have some words here. Let's just quickly get these words off. I don't know who this is, but we're going to find out.
Get some more insight. I want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down from the U.S. Forest Service. Chris Buckley joining us. Chris, thanks so much for being here on Live Now from Fox. And this is the combo that you don't want to see when you have a lot of wind and you have that temperature as well element.
Yeah, this is not what we wanted to see over this weekend. This fire started Saturday morning, late Saturday morning, and it was kind of the perfect conditions for it. I mean, we had high temperatures, we had low relative humidity, and we had gusty winds. We've had some red flag conditions since. So, I mean, that was just kind of the perfect.
Now, this is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the fire that an arsonist, a person set off themselves. So I may be wrong on that, but I think I'm right.
Storm to create a big wind-driven wildfire, which is what this turned out to be. But we certainly made a lot of progress since then, and especially today.
Hell yeah, Jack, you're the one that got it. That's awesome.
Yeah, and talk about that progress that has been made and maybe what the hope is for the next 24 to 36 hours there on the ground.
We have a lot of crews fighting this fire. Every day we have between 709 people assigned.
Not that we know of anyways, Virginia Chaos. Not that I know of. Maybe they did, but I just haven't seen it, unfortunately. But I'm not going to have them go on and on and on about a fire because, I mean, shit, we're dealing with fires nonstop right now. I mean, it's hundreds of fires that are out there right now. But anyways, we'll go ahead and move on because, again, we've got way too much to get through and we're way behind on time. Excuse me. We're already 40 minutes in. Supreme Court backs Trump's order to curb mail-in ballots. That's actually what we put on the thumbnail today. Let me know what you guys think of the thumbnail. We obviously put a lot of time and effort into these things. So, yeah, obviously this is going to be a small Trump win for sure. Let's go ahead and bring this up and figure out what's happening with this. Now, again, this is something more on the not on the permanent side. It's going to be kind of more of a temporary ruling, I guess, but we'll figure out what's going on with this.
Live now from Fox, I am Andy Mack. Less than 2 weeks away from some states sending out their mail-in ballots, the Supreme Court clearing the way for the Trump administration to move forward with its effort to overhaul mail-in voting. The order could prevent the Postal Service from delivering ballots to states that don't comply with President Trump's executive order. So a big decision or ruling coming down today from the Supreme Court, as you see, saying Supreme Court grants President Trump's request for permission to implement his executive order overhauling the mail-in ballot system. The liberal justices dissent.
There it is.
The court did not rule on whether the order is legal, leaving the door open to more challenges that could.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at right there. Is that's why it's not permanent. Okay, let me go ahead and replay that again so you guys can understand why this is more of a temporary thing than maybe obviously a permanent thing.
Executive order overhauling the mail-in ballot system. The liberal justices dissent, but the court did not rule on whether the order is legal, leaving the door open to more challenges that could slow the process even still. Let's be joined right now here on Live Now from Fox, from the National Law Journal, Jimmy Hoover. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And these decisions are always somewhat complicated. Simplify it for me. What do we make? What exactly happened? What was decided today?
This is a bit of a complicated one, Andy, but the Supreme Court, by a 6-3 decision, said that it was too early to put the brakes on Trump's executive order, which, as I said in that tweet...
Yeah, and because literally some of these states are only 2 weeks away from sending out their mail-in ballots, essentially, so...
kind of overhaul some of the processes that are in the mail ballot system, a system that traditionally has been run entirely by the states. So what that does is basically tell the Trump administration that they can, for now, move forward with plans to implement Trump's directives. One of them in that March executive...
Well, no doubt, Steve. Unfortunately, that is one of Trump's hugest downfalls, is he can't legislate through Congress. I mean, obviously, if you do executive orders, we're talking temporary things. I mean, just basically during not only the party's time, but just the president. Usually you have the next president come in and just override and throw executive orders on top of the previous administration, right? So
order relates to compiling citizenship lists for each state. Another has to do with new regulations from the United States Postal Service about the kinds of ballots, design requirements, specific codes, barcodes that need to be on these mail ballots. Some people have characterized these actions as restrictions. But as I mentioned, the Supreme Court said it's too soon to block any of these
thank you for that, Lady S. Appreciate that.
Proposals, because there's no, at least at the time that this case made it up to the Supreme Court, there were no actual final plans yet. So as the majority wrote in the unsigned per curiam opinion this afternoon, time will tell whether any of those actions actually live to see the light of day.
And we'll see if they actually have impacts in November. But if they continues to move forward with this, the way the Supreme Court made the decision today, allowing them to move forward with this overhaul of...
Now, again, if you guys didn't catch it, this was a 6-3 ruling on this particular thing.
Mail-in voting. How might mail-in voting look upcoming in the next few months?
Good question.
Well, it's hard to say exactly what kind of effect this particular executive order would have. The U.S. Postal Service actually has just recently released the text of its final regulation, its final rulemaking that Trump had asked it to engage in. And the USPS took pains to say that this is actually a modest step that they're taking. They're not requiring the states to do that much. It's not going to be the kind of overhaul that the Democratic election officials are worried about. But obviously, mail voting has become incredibly common since the pandemic. It is not something that President Trump is a fan of, despite the fact that he is obviously himself voted by mail several times. But of course, it's become a
exactly there, Sterling Whale facts.
Huge bugbear.
And by the way, I'm a huge proponent against mail-in ballots. I think mail-in ballots is bullshit. I think that you shouldn't show up and vote. I mean, that's what I do. Listen, I'm disabled and I do that. I got one leg and I do that. I don't need no mail-in ballot. And even if I was in a full-on wheelchair, dude, I'll still show up. No problem. But anyways, now I understand if you're on vacation, you're away, you're out of the country or something, or you're military. I do understand those kind of things, or even the extremely elderly
of Trump's Republican Party to essentially argue that mail voting is rife with fraud. And the text of this executive order is dressed in exactly that, an attempt to instill election integrity. Now, of course, Democratic governors and election officials say that it is simply a voter restriction measure.
And you mentioned, obviously, at the federal level, they handle this, but how might it look different state by state? Because every state has somewhat of a different process about how they go about tabulating, how they go about mail-in balloting. Could different states be looking at different processes now because of this?
Because of this particular order this evening, I doubt it, just because of what we had said earlier in our conversation. It's still too early to say whether any actions taken by the Trump administration vis-a-vis this executive order will actually stand. I suspect that litigation will probably continue, especially when it relates.
Of course, and it's going to go back to the decision later to the Supreme Court if the whole curbing the mail-in ballots executive order the way it stands is legal. Once that comes out, if it comes out that in Trump's favor, of course, now that's permanent. It'll be a permanent ruling. But unfortunately, we don't have that ruling yet. So it could go either way on that.
To the new ballot design requirements recently unveiled by the USPS. Of course, you're right. The states do have basically the entire purview over their own mail ballot system. And I should point out that just in June, if you recall, the Supreme Court rejected a recent challenge from the Republican Party to states that actually count ballots that arrive after Election Day, so long as, of course, they're postmarked before Election Day. So mail.
That's also very true, Lady S. That's why, I mean, truly, I even bit my tongue saying, sending it to the very elderly. I'm trying to be inclusive, but to be honest, if it were up to me, the way that these fucking silent generations and boomers, the late boomers vote, oh my God, it's terrible. Like, they're so disconnected from reality. I say making them show up at the box, you know what I mean?
Voting is here to stay, and this order this evening by the Supreme Court doesn't disturb that in any meaningful way.
And this isn't just the end of a chapter. We talk about this as a complicated kind of evolutionary, cyclical Groundhog's Day type of saga. What comes next? What lawsuits might be out there? And might it slow process that this decision isn't even relevant for this election cycle?
Yeah, we haven't, as a lot of court commentators are pointing out, this is not the last word on this specific issue or probably on any other question about mail voting in this election cycle. It seems like we live in an era of constant litigation over mail voting and voting in general. But specifically when it comes to this executive order from Trump seeking to kind of overhaul the mail voting system or introduce new regulations and come up with these citizenship lists, I imagine that the litigation will continue to play out in this Massachusetts trial court where it was initially brought. And you could potentially see further court orders blocking, let's say, the latest version of the final rule that was put out by the USPS, in which case that could put this case right back on the docket on the Supreme Court's desk, and we could be talking about it in a few weeks or maybe less than that. Who knows?
Yeah, we could be talking about it once more, so we'll see what happens. I do want to ask you about the time.
We know that we're going to be talking about this again, obviously. So you guys know anything that we present, we do our best to follow it up anytime that it's breaking, when it's happening. We keep an eye on this because we do this Monday through Friday. So, of course, I remember these things that I mean, obviously the ones that I really care about, a lot of these judgments and rulings and stuff like that. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into now. We had yesterday, let's see, it doesn't give me an exact time, unfortunately, but it says officer shot at Sam's Club in Texas after a vehicle pursuit. It says here, police in Burleson, Texas are assisting an outside agency that was involved in a shooting near a Sam's Club after a vehicle pursuit on Monday. An officer was shot by a suspect during the incident, and their condition is currently unknown. Witnesses say the police officer was shot in the leg and that they heard multiple shots fired. Okay, let's go and bring this up, figure out what's going on here.
We want to continue with the breaking news coverage out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a pursuit and police shooting. Let's take you out to our Fox 14 and their live team.
And right after this, we're going to be getting into the Pentagon. We got some Pentagon news as well. So
coverage.
The scene to bring you the very latest.
A grass fire burns more than 4,000 acres in Palo Pinto County, and it's not the only wildfire burning today. How our hot and dry August is making...
Man, there's hundreds of wildfires right now. It's crazy.
Fighting those fires even more difficult.
The Royce City Police Department fires one of the officers involved in a viral arrest outside a neighborhood pool. Why it's still...
Yeah, Richard, there's no doubt about that. We know that you guys are savvy with a lot of things, okay? Like the older boomers, like the older boomers, not the young boomers, but the older boomers. And also, I think that the way that politics is played has always been very sly and savvy like this. But now we're in like a super internet age, AI age. We got information at our tips. See, back in the day, the problem is us younger folk, we feel like, unfortunately, the older guys will be presented actual evidence like, hey, this is what's going on. And you guys will stick back and believe your mainstream media that told you that 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, or whatever the case is, and you still stand by it. And it's like, dude, this is the evidence right here. I've got the evidence right here. And nope, I believe what I believe. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm just getting at. That's the part that I was kind of hinting at.
Seeking criminal charges, though, against 2 other civilians involved.
Here for you and all North Texas. Fox 4 News starts right now with breaking news.
And that breaking news is out of Burleson, where
What's
multiple
up, Kat?
agencies are
Good morning.
responding to a police shooting at a Sam's Club.
Oh,
Hello,
shit.
everybody.
Hold on real quick. We got Pharma Cat letting us know we got a Timu Kieran raid. That's awesome, by the way. Welcome in to Kieran. And why are you so gay?
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Just saying. Just saying.
I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. This is the Sam's Club location on Burleson Boulevard near I-35 and Wilshire Boulevard. Burleson police say there was some kind of chase that ended with a shooting right outside the store or at the store. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager can find this a little bit more for us. Peyton.
Stephen, Heather, yeah, outside the Sam's Club here in Burleson city limits. I'm told an officer was shot here. I'm told not a Burleson police officer, an officer from a surrounding agency. We're still working to confirm that information, but we know an officer was taken to the hospital. We have Sky 4 overhead right now. We know a pursuit ended here right outside.
Now, this sucks because, unfortunately, we're not going to get a lot of information off of this. I guarantee
the front
it.
door of
I'll
the
skip
Sam's
through.
Club. Looks like
But I want to hear what she's saying right here.
multiple agencies are really centered around this blue truck. We have Cleburne Police here, Tarrant County Sheriff, Johnson County Sheriff, Burleson Police, DPS, State Troopers, Texas Rangers. They're all here.
Damn. Yeah, when one of theirs gets shot, it's over. Okay, let's see what is happening here.
Of officers
Is that the standoff right there? It looks like
with their guns drawn, again, surrounding this blue truck, colliding with the blue truck. Again, that pursuit ending here in this parking lot where dozens of shoppers are ending their day. And we, again, had multiple...
So this is in Texas, and I'm not sure exactly which store number, for instance, but it says Burleson, Texas, are assisting an outside agency that was involved in a shooting near a Sam's Club after a vehicle pursuit on Monday. Unfortunately, that's all we get from it. So
cell phone video coming.
The chick that's reporting, she's from Fox 4 Dallas, Fort Worth, by the way.
To our newsroom, and multiple shoppers say that they heard multiple rounds of gunshots. One witness, he had just stopped here to get some groceries to take home. He was
And I guess the officer got shot in the leg.
going out to his vehicle, and all of a sudden he sees this blue pickup truck speed in with multiple law enforcement agencies behind him. He sees that a man gets out and runs inside of the Sam's Club. An officer is following him, followed by 5 to 6 gunshots later. Then an officer comes out. The witness says shot in the leg. Other officers are trying to put a tourniquet on that officer's leg. And this is what the witness had to say to us.
It was a scary moment, and hadn't witnessed anything like that. Yeah, so yes, I was caught in the middle. My truck was right there where the.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know that what a Sam's Club. I forgot that you're Canadian. You probably don't know what a fucking Sam's Club is. I'm sorry for assuming.
Orange line is. I was seeing everything right up. I got to see the full incident going down.
Any message for the officer who's injured?
Well, God bless him. Hope he's okay. And thank you for saving us. Saving the.
Hell yeah, Tiffany. By the way, thank you for the 200 jewels. Very much appreciate that. It goes a long way. Appreciate it.
Customers that were still inside.
And we're hearing that gratitude from other witnesses who are still out here. You have to remember, this is a crime scene, and people have their car.
Now, let me skip ahead here and see if we get any actual images of the said person or more of a standoff. Looks like they're just talking around trying to figure out how they're going to report this or whatever. How are we going to write this down in the log?
Transported to a hospital with a gunshot wound in the leg. That, according to law enforcement, or a eyewitness, I should say, that was kind of trapped, seeing it all transpire very, very quickly. We hopefully will have an update from law enforcement in the coming moments, coming hours, of what was actually going on, why this individual was fleeing from police, what exactly happened, what they saw. We do know that the Texas Rangers.
What's up, Brown Chicken? My man, good morning.
Are also on the scene investigating that agency, to dictate what was going on. But you can still see some vehicles.
Unfortunately, there's not going to be any other information on that. Hopefully, we do get some sort of report later on from this, but unfortunately we probably don't. Anyways, we got some Pentagon news. Pentagon fires top Stars and Stripes staff after censorship comments. What? Let's figure out what's going on with this. We got Lady S coming in, by the way, sending in some jewels as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, let me go ahead and share the screen. And also, you know what? We haven't even done the money part, and we're already almost about to hit overtime. You know what they say about on overtime? They say no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Send in your freaking money.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Shit. All right, here we go. I'm going to bring this up, and we'll figure out what is happening.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. We're talking about next a story that happened late last week, but still very important, as the Pentagon fired the editor-in-chief of Stars and Stripes and also a
Big Dan chilling like a villain. Good morning to you, by the way. Good morning.
Reporter at that publication for insubordination. The military newspaper, partly funded by the Pentagon, has a long history, though, of editorial independence. A live look right now in Washington, D.C. at the White House as the editor-in-chief said he was dismissed after an interview he gave that objected to potential censorship by the U.S. military. This move comes at a time when the Trump administration has curtailed Pentagon access for the press corps covering the Defense Department. We're going to be joined right now here on Live Now from Fox, First Amendment reporter from U.S.
I want to know what kind of censorship they're talking about. Like,
Say today, Brianna. Brianna, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I think a lot of people in media circles and beyond were a little bit shocked by this late last week and the decision to dismiss several of these high-ranking people on Stars and Stripes. How troublesome is it? How concerning is this?
Well, several advocacy groups have released statements condemning the decision to fire not only the editor-in-chief of Stars and Stripes, but its Middle East reporter and its publisher. The National Press Club, for example, issued a statement that criticized what they described as the Pentagon's overreach as it relates to Stars and Stripes, and the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which is a major free speech organization, has also expressed concerns that these types of decisions are potentially unconstitutional.
And they were dismissed, calling it insubordination. What do we know? What more can you tell us about that exact language? Because they were just interviewed for an article and they were asking about a hypothetical question. What do we make of the details of the story?
Well, we know the editor-in-chief, Eric Slavin, mentioned that his firing followed a CBS interview. And
that's probably the biggest compliment anybody could ever give me. Thank you very much for that.
Which he was asked that hypothetical question, as you mentioned, about what would be a red line for him. And he talked about censorship. And as it relates to the Middle East reporter, she posted a thread on X on Friday as well, saying that she was fired over her comments in that CBS interview, in which she said that she doesn't work for the Pentagon. She doesn't work for any administration. She works for the newspaper. So they are pointing to that interview as the basis for their firing, though there have.
Okay, you got to understand. See, this is where people get First Amendment kind of conflated. Okay, when you work for a company, it's different having quote unquote free speech than it is when the government's trying to lock you up. Okay, that's where people get conflated on the whole thing. It's like YouTube. There is no actual true honest free speech on YouTube. You know, it's pretty clean and it's pretty good for what it is. But the truth is most people couldn't even handle that. Just free speech is crazy. I mean, even look at how crazy X got. X got fucking crazy, and it's not even full free speech. But again, people are conflating the idea of free speech with companies or being hired with a company. And then you say something, they can fire you just for looking, you didn't brush your hair correctly today. Yeah, I don't want you representing my company anymore. That's how that works. And if you say something I don't like, yeah, I'm your boss. I can fire your ass. Yeah, you know, that's how that works. But anyways, so it is interesting to find out how the Pentagon fires this publisher and editor. Like, how did that happen?
Certainly been other developments in the last few months along the lines of the First Amendment to the ombudsman for the newspaper, which is a position established by Congress to protect editorial independence.
Okay, that's a cheap shot. Steve Easy knows me a little too well. I mean, you guys that follow, you know, along in the Discord and shit, you guys know I'll cut up the nicest whiskey with some fucking soda. Yep. I'll cut it up with a Coke or a Dr. Pepper. Yep.
Was dismissed a couple of months ago and sued on First Amendment grounds earlier this summer. So that is certainly an ongoing development.
How much of a gray area is it, though? Because Stars and Stripes, partly funded by the Pentagon, but it's a editorial independence. How much overlap is there? Does the Pentagon have the jurisdiction in this regard?
Well, I think that's the question that remains. And I think that's the question that courts are going to have to decide. There was that ombudsman's lawsuit that I mentioned a little bit earlier. There were also members of the newspaper's advisory board that sued over changes that the Pentagon has made to Stars and Stripes in the last couple of months. And we'll have to see what happens as it relates to these firings. There's certainly precedent for these lawsuits to emerge. I haven't seen anything along those lines yet, but that line of what appropriate involvement is for the Pentagon as it relates to this outlet that it financially supports is something that
Okay, so if the Pentagon financially supports that certain publisher and editor, such as the Stars and Stripes brand or whatever, yeah, they can make that decision. If like a company is a shareholder of another company or whatever, there's all sorts of connections there. If it's connected to the Pentagon, they can absolutely fire you. That's where I was trying to figure out, how did the Pentagon have the ability to fire an independent source reporter? How did that happen? But now that makes total fucking sense. The Pentagon actually funds some of this publishing. So no wonder. Okay, now thank you for connecting the dots for me, lady. Okay, so we got to get into this trade war thing. We still got a lot of shit to get through. We still got 5 main stories to get through. Holy shit, and we're way into overtime. All right, trade war. Canada fires back as Trump threatens new U.S. tariffs. All right, let's go ahead and do this, but let's get the sandwich.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
That's a fact, Jack. And by the way, I'm going to be honest. Anytime I have like Hennessy or something like that, or whatever, I will drink that with apple juice. Believe it or not, Henny and apple juice, Cavassier and apple juice, bomb as fuck. Anyways, let's get into this right here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in the Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Anna Marsick. Let's get started right now with a live look over the White House as the time in the nation's capital is approaching 11:30. The U.S. and Canada trade war is escalating.
Oh, Mountain Woman, that's awesome. She says this is Pop's favorite news program. He says Mike explains shit. He's always listening and commenting as he gets stuff done around here. Wow, that's another humongous compliment, by the way. I'm very honored, and thank you guys for being with me and supporting me and what we do here, hitting that like button, commenting, all of it. It all helps. You guys being here daily, all those things, man. I'm honored to be able to do it.
Both sides digging in after a nearly done deal collapsed over the weekend. Fox's Rebecca Castor has more from Washington, where President Trump is now threatening more tariffs on our northern neighbor.
An end to the U.S.-Canada trade war looked hopeful last week, but now both countries are at a standoff after Ottawa pulled out of trade talks late Friday, accusing Washington of making last-minute demands.
We cannot accept what they've offered, and we will not give what they've asked.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney claims the U.S. wanted to restrict Canada's ability to negotiate trade agreements with other countries. That's one reason a deal wasn't reached by President Trump's deadline. So his 50% tariffs on roughly $20 billion worth of imports took effect Saturday. But Canada has vowed to retaliate dollar for dollar.
Taking countermeasures. Our interest is in protecting American workers and protecting American supply chains. And they've always had the best deal. And
oh, man, you guys are awesome, man. Thank you for that, Big Dan.
They still would have an even better deal, but they didn't want that.
President Trump says Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one. And announced Monday, U.S. tariffs on all Canadian cars and trucks will increase to 50% on January 1st.
The fact that we provide their security for them and they take advantage of us, I think President Trump was the first one to go, you know what, that's not the kind of relationship that friends should have.
But Democrats warn losing friends could be worse.
If we can't even get along with Canada, the low-hanging fruit here, who can we get along with?
The U.S. trade...
Damn, he called them low-hanging fruit? Damn, I'd be more offended at that.
Representative says no new talks are planned with the Canadians, but insists it was not the U.S. that made last-minute demands. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Our thanks to Rebecca for that reporting there. And as we are following this news here on this Monday evening, we have a lot to break down. Joining us right now is Christopher Sands, who is the director of the Center.
What's up, Rachel? Good morning to you. Happy Topless Taco Tuesday to you, by the way. Good
For
morning.
U.S. and Canada Studies at Johns Hopkins University. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Good evening, and I'm glad to be here.
So a lot has changed just today alone. Can you just break down maybe what the biggest development we learned today is?
Well, the biggest development was that Canada announced it was going to retaliate against the United States with tariffs, as your reporter said, dollar for dollar, matching U.S. tariffs. The United States tariffs that we threatened and have now imposed were targeted at products that we have alternative sources for. This was meant to maximize the pain for Canada, but actually protect the U.S. industry to the extent that we could, because we could find alternative suppliers. Canada is likely to turn around and do the same thing, trying to find ways to hit the United States with tariffs that will cause the maximum amount of pain and discomfort for U.S. industry.
And, we heard Mark Carney using some pretty strong language saying Canada won't accept an attitude that treats it like a subsidiary of the United States. Is this now as much about maybe Canadian sovereignty and national identity as it is about economics?
I think it's a little bit of both. And part of that is that in these kind of trade talks, and this was true for the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement back in the 80s, it was true for NAFTA, you often have these 11th hour crises. Someone puts one more thing on the table and it seems to break the talks down. And then you have a drama where people walk away, threats, other things are said. But often we find ourselves back in conversation, having vented how angry we are at the other side. Somehow we recognize the stakes are high and we can find a way to come together. I'm not saying that's guaranteed to happen. Certainly, we're right now heading towards a major
Rachel is being a typical woman in the chat. That's hilarious.
escalation in tariff. But it could be, if this is like other trade agreements.
What's up, Gary, by the way? Good morning to you.
That this kind of rhetoric is a sign that we are really close and we may find ourselves talking again soon.
So, President Trump is now essentially telling Canada to fall in line or they're facing consequences that could be even worse than what we're seeing right now. What does that tell you about how the Trump administration is approaching these negotiations?
I think the Trump administration has been a very different type of administration, and it's taken a while for, I think, the Canadian government and most Canadians, even some Americans, to take that on board. We had a series of presidents who were committed to the principle of free trade, that is, trade with zero tariffs or as close to as possible. And we saw trade agreements that came from Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and so forth, that were all more or less within that frame. That was the goal, reducing tariffs. President Trump sees tariffs as a way to lower the tax burden on American businesses and to put the tax burden on those countries that are taking advantage of the U.S. market. His approach, therefore, has been to be very tough and to demand at least some minimum tariff on all allies. But he has a particular bee in his bonnet, if you can say that on television, with regard to Canada, where I think he feels that Canada has benefited from U.S. protection, U.S. support in many ways, but has been slow to pay for its own defense, slow to pay for other things, and so puts an unfair burden on the U.S. As a result, even when we talk to Mexico or China, you don't see that kind of anger coming from.
Well, and truth be told, Canada did have kind of the better end of the deal for decades. You know what I mean? And so I don't think we need to now take advantage of Canada, but I think we definitely need to get to the point where we get a good solid trade agreement where there's no actual trying to take advantage of one another. Because there is a lot of good things that we get out of Canada, such as resources like energy and oil and stuff like that, electricity. Those are very important things.
From President Trump, it seems really focused on Canada in this case.
So I want to talk about that 50% number that, we're hearing a lot about, the 50% tariffs. Can you walk us through what this means in the real world? Who is paying this bill?
Well, of course, Americans will ultimately pay the tariffs if we buy the products at that higher cost, because the tariff's like a tax. And so it's like a sales tax. In effect, you buy from Canada, you pay 50% on the price.
Exactly. I'm glad that he's actually being objective on this whole thing, because it's very true. Who actually pays for it on the whole chain of the process of tariffs? Who ends up paying for it? That would be us, the consumers. It's us that the prices go up on. It gets compensated by the purchaser
that you would ordinarily pay. Now, what that is intended to do is to get the American company, even the American consumer, to buy from someone else. So where there isn't an extra 50% surcharge. And so usually people say, well, at 50%, this is going to be really bad for American consumers. And it may be, but it's also possible that businesses will adjust, buy from other suppliers. And so what Canada will face is lower sales, not sales at a higher price. You notice that a lot of things that the U.S. has targeted are what we call commodities, products that are very price sensitive. And so if you put a tariff on them,
people tend to go to another vendor just because the price is basically all that matters. That's driven Mark Carney and the Canadians to look at new markets for their oil and natural gas. And that's not a loss to the United States. That oil and gas can go to countries like Japan and Korea that definitely need those products and need better suppliers than Iran and some of the Middle Eastern countries, and so have been eager to have Canadian products. That's not a loss for the U.S. That's just a shift in trade patterns, and it's based on the tariffs that the president is bringing forward.
All right, and let me go ahead and see if there is any major posts on this, like on some sort of social. Here's Trump right here. Canada has been ripping off the United States for America for years. Their ridiculously high tariffs on our farmers and farm products has made life impossible for those great American patriots and has long created a $60 billion deficit between our two countries. Not sustainable and not anymore. On January 1st, 2027, tariffs on all cars, trucks, both large and small, automotive parts and steel will be increased to 50%. Build in the U.S. and there are zero tariffs. Canada will be treated like a state no longer. On trade and in other ways, also, they are among the worst nations in the world to deal with. They feel entitled, and yet we don't need Canada. They need us. They do 95% of their business with the United States. With us, the exact opposite. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Be increased to.
So anyways, she doesn't need to read that. Let me go ahead and see what this looks like a gaggle that happened outside the White House. Let's figure out what this is.
Well, I'll just keep that to myself for now. We're preparing options for the president. Again, I think this is a little bit of a tempest in a teapot. The tariffs went into place over the weekend, which we warned about for a long time. They only cover about 5% of Canadian trade, only 0.06% of U.S. overall consumption. So we'll see. I mean, we're just moving forward with our trade policy as intended. The Canadians came to us about 30 days ago, said they want to negotiate. We said okay. Negotiations ended up not working out, so we're just continuing with our trade policy.
What is your message to small businesses who say they cannot afford these costs, who are concerned about this?
Again, I think it was what I just mentioned. I mean, this covers 0.06% of U.S. consumption. The vast majority of goods that our small businesses trade in are made in the USA or they're duty free. So this is
Rachel. When this is implemented, yes, it would be theoretically
something where we don't actually expect a huge impact. I mean, the Canadian situation may be different for them. I know they view it differently, of course, and that's fine. But for the U.S. small business, for the U.S. manufacturer, for the U.S. worker, this is a way for us actually to try to get.
Not necessarily, but it's not going to help. But that's not the primary reason why groceries are so expensive.
Wine and spirits back on the shelves in Canada. It's a way to make sure that our small dairy farmers who have had very limited access into Canada for a long time. So we're actually worried about our small businesses, make sure they get the kind of access they need.
You're saying you're not worried about. Are not on the books for Canada. Right. Why not? And what has to happen for negotiations to continue?
I think you saw the Canadians' remarks on Friday that they suspended talks. So that's we respect that. I'm not going to. Again, they came to us a month ago and said we want to have negotiations. So we said okay. We don't have anything scheduled. I have the Mexicans coming in this week. I have the Mexican trade minister coming in Tuesday afternoon. They've been very constructive on the trade front. We've been able to resolve a lot of issues with them. They've been taking actions to protect their own market, to try to get a hold of transshipment, which is something that we're worried about. So we'll see what conversations look like with them. Now,
the reason why we're listening to this guy in particular is because he is the U.S. trade representative. Okay, you know what I mean. So that's why this guy, listening to him speak right now, is important. That happened to be all he had to say. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. We've got 4 more major stories to get through real quick. I just don't have enough time to get into this whole thing when it's not that super relevant right now. Okay, we're just going to skip that story. We got to get into CDC, E. coli and Salmonella outbreak linked to alfalfa sprouts. What is going on? First it was lettuce. Then it was jalapenos, and now it's fucking sprouts. Oh my God, dude. What is going on with these farmers? And oh,
see that we are looking at all of the different feeds that are coming into our newsroom right now. And the next story involves another recall of sorts, another outbreak, as U.S. health officials are tracking another apparent food poisoning, this time tied to alfalfa sprouts, with cases reported in at least a total of 15 states. The CDC reporting more than 36 cases in Minnesota and Wisconsin, with at least 55 cases nationally, including 4 people who have been hospitalized as a result. Now, there are several other states. I was trying to pull up a map, but unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be loading here. Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, North and South Dakota, and Washington.
Damn it.
Dr. Steve Goldberg is the Chief Medical Officer of HealthTrack, joining us now to talk much more about what all this means.
And I don't know where this exact food or the alfalfa sprouts are being, I'm assuming it's probably Mexico.
Really all these different outbreaks that we have had here over the past, I would say, several months. Doctor, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Good morning, Josh. Yes, we're seeing more foodborne illness this year versus last year, and it's an unfortunate occurrence. And the topic for today is sprouts. And you hit the numbers exactly right. CDC is reporting 55 people impacted across 15 states, 4 hospitalized, fortunately no deaths. And what happened was, on interview of ill individuals by state health departments, there was a pattern. 3 out of 4 said, I recently ate alfalfa sprouts and I got them from this source. So that's how they tracked it back to 2 different manufacturers. So that's where we're at.
Well, tell us the 2 different manufacturers. I want to know the 2 different manufacturers and where they're from.
As of this morning.
And I have to ask, how is this one, if at all, maybe different from what we've seen with these other outbreaks?
They're all somewhat different. They all primarily are gastrointestinal illnesses. I think what's different is that this is 2 bugs, if you will, an E. coli bug and a Salmonella bug. And in the E. coli bug, it's a particular bug that can be really nasty to your body. So that's how this one is different.
When you talk about alfalfa sprouts, it's maybe...
Man, will you guys tell us the manufacturers and where they are sourced from, please? That's all I care about.
I mean, it might be a popular food among some, but it's not maybe the same popularity as something like lettuce, let's say. So
right.
When you look at alfalfa sprouts, is that less of a threat than maybe an outbreak that involves, let's say, lettuce?
I think you're right. The range of people affected by this particular vegetable is likely smaller. That said, this particular outbreak is...
That's the map right now. The affected states of those 55 people, this is the states that have been affected so far. So just, if you guys wanted to see that, there it is.
Very difficult.
That's straight from the CDC. That's the source from the CDC.
Because you can't, if you will, wash the alfalfa sprouts and then be in good shape. What happens is bacteria actually gets into it at the seed level and is in the vegetable itself. It can't be washed. So once this is identified, it's got to be returned.
And Richard, I've been saying that. Absolutely. We got a whole show on that whole fucking topic. Absolutely. And you should tune in if you haven't checked it out. It's called The Diamond Effect, every Wednesday night at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a great time. Anyways.
To the manufacturer or thrown out, period, 100%.
And right here, you are looking at that map that I promised you. Again, 15 states where this has all been reported at this point. Of course, that could change because not everyone is going to report something that could just be food poisoning. You don't see a lot of people report it. Obviously, if you've had any symptoms there, you should. But doctor, can you explain what symptoms people need to be watching out for?
Oh, everyone knows what the symptoms of gastro problems. You start having fucking explosive diarrhea, you might fucking want to think back about what you ate. Okay. Let's go into now. We got Iran issues bounty for Trump's son Barron as war enters its 6th month. Now, let me go ahead and read this. It says Iranian state media is claiming there is a $10 million bounty on Barron Trump, President Donald Trump's 20-year-old son, according to the new report, as the U.S. war with Iran enters its 6th month. All right, real quick, we gotta get you guys to obey real quick.
Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Donate. Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Donate. Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Donate some freaking.
Now that is the best propaganda you're gonna get all day. All right, here we go. Let's go and get into this.
A familiar image there on the right-hand side of your screen. That is a live look over the Strait of Hormuz provided by marine traffic. And as you can see, as we have seen over the past 6 months, not a lot of movement.
What's up, Roland? My man, Dean, great to see you. Hopefully you're enjoying your morning over there on the West Coast.
Reuters reporting that there has been the littlest amount of movement there that we've seen in months here. So again, a lot of vessels that are just kind of out there waiting to see how things progress. Now, President Trump just putting out a Truth Social related to Iran. So I want to pop this up on your screen. He says the failing Islamic Republic.
Yes, that is also true, Steve Posey.
Republic of Iran is not paying large segments of their military, while at the same time killing protesters even when they are not protesting at levels not seen before. It is a humanitarian crisis of epic.
Real quick, we got my man Al Patterson in the building. Hopefully you're enjoying your Topless Taco Tuesday so far.
Proportions and must be stopped now, President Donald J. Trump. So again, that post here just coming out on Truth Social a short time ago. Now, at the same time, Iran is now claiming that it's tracking President Trump's 20-year-old son, Barron, and has a $10 million bounty for him. This is from...
Now, I saw this being reported officially. It must have been yesterday morning. It must have been. Maybe it was... It had to be yesterday morning.
On the New York Post, as the IRGC released a video, it was broadcast as well on Iranian state TV detailing that hit. It appears that Secret Service and President Trump have been made aware of the claims as that video circulates all over social media. We, of course, will not be showing it here because it is Iranian propaganda. Reuters.
Real quick, I wish I had it so I could show you guys, but unfortunately I don't have it. We got Mr. Al Patterson coming in with the gifted membership, by the way. Very much appreciate that, by the way. Let's go. Not only helping me, but you're helping somebody in the IWF, my man. Thank you very much. All right, let's go and get into
also
this.
Reporting today that another oil tanker has been struck by, quote, an unidentified projectile and disabled off the coast of Oman at the entrance of the strait. The information comes from the UK Maritime Trade Operations, which has been reporting on those ships hit by Iran in the strait over the course of the last 6 months. Ahead of the U.S. on Monday.
So this is as of today. Yesterday, we reported on 5 different ships that got struck over the weekend because I report news Monday through Friday. So I reported over the weekend that 5 ships were struck and over the weekend. And now this is another one today being struck by an unidentified projectile and disabled about 9 nautical miles northeast of Oman's Shisha, which lies at the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz.
Monday, announcing an economic D-Day and new sanctions on Iran and allies. Iran threatened both a possible military response and further reduction in oil exports from the Gulf in retaliation. Right now, I want to bring in Mark Chandler over at Coastal Carolina University. Also, he is a former senior intelligence defense official. Thank you so much for taking the time, Mark, to be here with us as we continue to break down all of those developments that are coming in out of the Middle East. And I can say there are a lot of them.
And before he gets into that, because I'm only going to get the front monologue of what he's going to say here. We don't need him to dive deep. We've already done that enough on this episode, explaining economic D-Day. We've done that for days now. So we'll kind of skip ahead. But I do want to say real quick, if you guys can do me a big favor, I know there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, and there's not a lot to like for it for that reason. But hit the like button for me and what we're doing here on Insanewheels. Appreciate that very much. If you guys are on the vertical side, double tap that screen. Appreciate you guys.
Good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me today.
Of course. And I want to start off by talking about the developing situation taking place involving President Trump's son, because we know that there have been so...
On the, Steve, on the last ones, they were missiles. On the 5 ships that were hit, they were actual missiles. So...
many different bounties, so to speak, that have been put on President Trump. Iran has said multiple times that they plan to assassinate him. The Secret Service, of course, knows about all of this, as do other intelligence agencies. So when you look at this as a whole, and now they are broadcasting this video, very disturbing there, on their Iranian state TV related to Barron, just 20 years old, the president's son. What does that tell you about where things stand? Because I have to imagine that President Trump is not going to take that lightly.
No, absolutely. He won't take that lightly, Josh. And I applaud you for not showing that video and helping further the Iranian propaganda.
Oh my God, that shit is so fucking gay. I say let out the information on both sides of the equation and let the people actually decipher what is bullshit and what isn't. Now, we know that obviously if a video that is from Iran that we're going to present about a bounty, whether it be over anybody's head, we automatically know it's Iranian propaganda. You know what I mean? We already know it's going to be bullshit, just like our shit is a lot of bullshit a lot of the times. But see, that's the whole thing is guys like me, I can present it and say, yeah, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know what I mean? That's the difference.
But in addition to being propaganda, it's a legitimate threat. So the Secret Service is going to take this serious, especially when we look at some of the details contained in what Iran released in that video, talking about the security measures surrounding Barron, talking about some of his routines. This is very similar to the one against the First Lady a few months ago. So you can see that Iran has folks that are willing to share that information in today's social media world. And so that open source information freely available can create a weakness in the president's and his family's security. But the Secret Service is going to take this very serious.
Of course they're going to, no doubt.
Second thing is, Iran will continue these threats. They still have a bounty on the president. That dates back to 2020.
The CIA is hard at work right now.
You still look at some of the senior administration officials in his first administration, and then you look at the series of threats against his daughter, his wife, and now his son. Iran is really amping up. Whether Iran will come to the United States and conduct that, that's one aspect. They're really hoping they can generate somebody for a sympathetic attempt on the president or any of his family's life.
And again, this is that post from the...
All right. And so, of course, he's not going to end up showing it. Let's see what Reuters says here. Okay, that's, again, about the ship that got struck this morning. President Trump put out earlier. Now, he did read this earlier, but I'll just go ahead and read it now because I didn't. The failing Islamic Republic of Iran is not paying large segments of their military while at the same time killing protesters, even when they are not protesting, at levels not seen before. It is a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions and must be stopped now. Let's see if there's any other posts here. Let me scroll through. We got Marco Rubio saying, I formally rescinded Syria's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. This action unlocks new potential for Syria's economic revitalization and progress. The Trump administration continues to advance U.S. national security to achieve peace, prosperity, and security in the Middle East. Interesting. That is very interesting because now they're gonna get a lot. I mean, sanctions are gonna lift for them. I'm sure. I'm sure a whole bunch of shit's gonna lighten up for them on that for Syria. All right, that is interesting developments coming out this morning. And now, one last one to give a kick in the nuts to Canada, I guess, because Trump just can't help himself. Trump threatens to rename Lake Ontario this morning to Lake America as tariff war continues. All right, let's go and figure out what this nonsense is. Here we go.
President Trump just posting this.
Just coming out an hour ago, just a single hour ago.
A short time ago saying the United States is giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, in that we don't expect to be doing much business with Ontario any longer. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So again, posting that here on Truth Social a short time ago. And he's posted some other...
Dude, Trump he is probably going to be known as the best troll that ever ran the United States. You know what I mean? He does troll like a motherfucker. This is a troll.
Other things here on Truth Social as well, providing a little bit more about his thoughts, saying, I would never interfere with Canadians speaking French. In fact, I have never even thought of doing such a stupid thing. This lie was made up by a weak and ineffective prime minister in an attempt to gain political support, which he has totally lost from the people of Quebec. I love French Canadians. So again,
real quick, we got Kurt in the building. Shout out to my man. Hopefully you're enjoying the morning, by the way. And EOIN, or EOIN, whatever. Great to see you in the chat, by the way. All right, let's see. Lake America sounds lame. It should be a lake we opened a can of whoop ass. Oh my God.
And a lot going on there when we talk about the tariffs, because Canada is also expected to announce more retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. at some point this morning, one day after President Trump told Canadian leaders to, quote, fall in line or face consequences, quote, far worse than existing tariffs. Trump also threatening new 50% tariffs on Canadian vehicles, auto parts, and steel, while Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said U.S. trade demand showed that Washington wanted to, quote, destroy our major industries, including auto, steel, and aluminum. There's a lot to discuss about the impacts of all of this back and forth, so I do want to...
See, look, if you're going to do like a lake name, do a change of a lake, look at this lake up here, okay? Check out this lake. This is a good name for a lake. Man drowned himself lake. That's literally this lake's name. Man drowned himself lake. Damn. Well, at least you're going to be remembered forever. Yeah, crazy. There's some crazy lake names if you guys didn't know. There's like Wild fucking lake names. And most of them are in fucking Canada. Anyways, let's get back to this thing over here real quick. Hold on.
I'm going to bring in Andrew Greenland, an assistant professor in the Department of Economics at North Carolina State, to discuss all of it. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and helping to break down the significance of all of this.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Of course. And first off, I want to start by just kind of asking you if you can break down the significance of this back and forth as it relates to the tariffs.
Yeah, so a lot of this goes back to President Trump's redesigning of the NAFTA agreement into the USMCA. There were some provisions left in that agreement that allowed what we would think of as...
I don't know. It didn't say men drowned. It said man drowned. So I would assume one.
Domestic content requirements that make sure that when we're producing goods in Canada or the US, those are not just being brought in from foreign economies and then sold as Canadian or sold as American to another economy. Because when we sell to each other, there were specific reductions in tariffs that made it very advantageous. But you might be concerned that producers could take advantage of that by buying cheap inputs abroad and then marking their own label on them and selling them. There were some poorly negotiated or poorly termed components of that agreement that President Trump has taken some opposition to that have allowed
it to get to the trade level that we're at. Yeah, that's okay. You're giving me 0 here. Let's see what Mark Carney says here. We are stronger now than when the United States started this trade war. More unified, more determined, and more ambitious.
Stop the cap.
A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit.
Don't act like that doesn't hurt your economy and hurt your shit. Don't play that off like nothing's happening, like as if you're stronger in the situation. You don't have to bullshit like that. Okay, so that's what we are caught up with the news, ladies and gentlemen. I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for hanging out with me this morning and with us. Obviously, thank you guys for hitting that like button and double tapping the screen on the way out as well. Very much appreciate it. Listen, we'll be back tomorrow morning for more of the World's Madness. This is what we do Monday through Friday. And of course, we have members only on Saturday morning. So if you guys got gifted a membership this morning, make sure you guys show up on Saturdays, man. It's a good time. Anyways, much love, honor, respect to everybody. Enjoy your Topless Taco Tuesday. God bless you guys. We'll see you guys very soon. And take care of yourselves.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul, with a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on 2 wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, Insanewheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. So can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insanewheels, hear his battle cry, a metal made